Okay, at 6:30, we'll call the special Sawyer County Board of Supervisors meeting to order, please. Madam Clerk, may we have roll call?
Dale Schlueter. Here. Jesse Betcher. Here. Tweed Schuman.
Here.
Stacy Hessel. Jason Weaver. Here. Mark Helwig. Here. Tom Duffy. Here. Bruce Paulson. Brian Bissonette.
Here.
Chuck Van Etten. Dale Olson. Here. Don Pettit.
Here.
Ron Kinsley. Ron Buckholz.
Present.
Ed Peters.
Here.
Okay, let the record indicate we have a quorum. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, certification of compliance with open meetings law, Madam Clerk.
This meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. Meeting agenda has been presented. Moving on, number 6, public comment. I've got one on Steve Binding. Please approach the podium, state your name, address, sir. You have 3 minutes.
Thanks, everybody. Steve Binding, 8225 Blaisdell Lake Road in Loretta. Third time we're here in 2 months, so getting kind of used to this. Anyway, so we have 8 grants submitted for Sawyer County that were recently done in the total of $72 million. The issue here is we have several of these grants that were backed by Sawyer County that have overlapping territories. The risk here is that they can be protested during the protest period with the PSC. One of the grants in particular does not have county matching funds, but does have town of Ojibwa support with ARPA funds, but county sign off with a letter of support. That grant covers 11 townships for $40 million and has contention with several other grants that have ARPA funds. I have a manufacturing background, and one of those things when you're in manufacturing, you see something, you pull the cord, you stop. Something's broken here. We're a broadband forward county and we have no process in place. And what's causing this stuff to happen and be inconsistent letters of support, overlapping grants, is because the broadband forward process was never implemented properly. We don't have the contacts or the portal. So it's my recommendation that A, we stop all the grant funding until we get this right. We can do something like grant packets. We can partner. We can make this easier to partner with broadband providers, eliminate overlap, send in nice tight grants to get Sawyer County covered. We can do things like census tracts. We can have things, RDOF, ARPA, all that be included, using GIS data as a requirement, funding per business, what have you. The other thing is, we, at this time, I need to demand an ethics committee investigation. I have a couple of names and we have email evidence that there was backdoor dealing to help certain providers over other providers who were stonewalled. Please contact me offline. I don't want to release those names in this public forum. That's a private meeting session.
Okay, can you wrap it up, sir, please?
Yep. Let's clean this process up. Stop, pull the ARPA funds back, clean it up. Let's go back new at the end, next grant period, and come in with some nice tight stuff and cover Sawyer County. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yep. Anyone else for public comment? Anybody online, Alex? Okay, thank you. All right, moving on then to number 7, courthouse remodeling update. Mr. Kinsley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 2 items here this evening, and the first one is Sawyer County Amendment A133P32422. I'm going to turn it over to Mike, please.
Okay.
Mr. Schuman, we cannot hear Mr. Kinsley.
Okay, we're on to Mr. Keefe right now with a better explanation. Don, let me know if you can hear him. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. So we have the 2 items, like you said, we have the agreement and then we have the resolution. I'm kind of going to speak to them both and then we'll kind of get into details. But if you go to the last page of your handouts, or Alex, if you got the packet. Yeah, page 15 of the packet, Alex. Yeah. Is that the county board packet for tonight?
Yep, that's the amendment. And the resolution approves the amendment.
Correct.
Yep. So there's actually one action item here, but we'll let Mr. Keefe explain.
Yeah, I was just waiting for him to pull it up on
Okay.
the screen, but I can go ahead. So the last page, it says court edition summary, project summary. This is just a summary I put together to try and simplify what you're looking at on some of these reports tonight. So after 2 rounds of bidding, we have the projected cost of the new courthouse addition. We have the guaranteed maximum price amendment, which is the amount we're contracting or will be contracting if we approve this tonight for $8,618,746. That's the contract between the county and Myron for the construction of what they're going to do. In addition to that, there's other costs that the county has to incur for this project to go forward. We have design fees, we have California Avenue the county has to pay for, there's furniture and equipment, and there's other costs, some utility type costs that add up to that $1,452,649. So in total, the project cost is $10,071,395. If you look down, 10,071,395.
You want to turn your mic on, Mr. Howick, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
So everybody can hear you.
Yeah, it
Go ahead,
says,
sir.
10,157,317.
Okay, we'll get to the sheets in a minute.
Okay,
Um,
sorry.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that particular number, but we'll look at that. So anyway, back to the summary sheet. Then if you look down under the funding alternatives, at the March County Board meeting, we approved the $8 million bonding. So that leaves a balance or a gap that we need to fill for the, to fund the entire project of $2,071,395, which is the amount that's on the resolution that's before you this evening. There are some alternatives that, as we go forward, can still be worked out to drop the price a little bit. And that's kind of what I've got in the middle there, the utilize existing generator, remove the vestibule on the roof for the air conditioning. We still need to work through those, what we're going to do, but they have the potential there to reduce the price, you know, $150,000 to $175,000. But for tonight, we're focused on the $10,071,000.
Correct. And that's a not to exceed, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, it is as far as the 8,600,000 and
Right.
whatever, because that's the amount with Myron. So tonight, I handed out a detailed budget for you of the project. And there's kind of above the line and below the line. So above the line would be this is the budget for the different items in the project that are within Myron's control, what they're doing to build the project. And then the below the line items are the additional costs I mentioned, the design fees. So if you look at that blue line that goes across, and in the green section, and then it's blue again, above that is the Myron contract, and below that are the additional costs that the county is going to incur. And so if you look at the second to the, if you go to the right, the second column in from the right, those are the numbers that match up with the contract that we're going to look at. So in the blue, you see the 8,618,746.
746.
Then you see the other costs, and you got the total of the 10,071,395. Those are the costs that are going forward for this project. And then in your packets, you should have had the agreement, the guaranteed maximum price amendment, should be page 3, Alex. You scroll up. Yep, so that's first page of the agreement. At the bottom of the first page, that very last paragraph, the contract sum is guaranteed by the construction manager not to exceed that $8,618,000. On the second page, in the middle, there's some alternates listed here that are included in the guaranteed maximum price, but I don't know, they're just not finalized yet. They're still working those out. Is that the purpose of the?
Mr. Keating, you want to step up to the mic, introduce yourself, please?
Thank you, Dave Keating, Myron Construction. So I've been helping out through the whole pre-con process for Myron. So yes, correct. No, those ones under 1.1.5 alternates, those are actually accepted and those are included in the guaranteed maximum price already.
And then is there anything else? There is a date in here, I guess, substantial completion by July 29, 2023.
Correct. A 2.3 substantial completion.
Yeah.
Okay, so these guarantees are in writing then, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So I don't see on here that it states that there'll be a penalty if it's not completed by that date. Is there something we can add to this?
Go ahead, Mr. Keating.
So the contract itself has already been fully executed and that was not in the terms of the original contract. So this amendment is actually just establishing the value and the substantial completion date. So those terms would have been part of the original agreement, the 133 dated May 25th of 21. So there are no penalty clauses in that contract at this time. Well, legally, we're bound to being complete by the end of July per this document.
Right, otherwise you'd be in breach of contract.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, I'm gonna go with Mr., are you done, Ms. Hessel? Okay, Mr. Buckles.
I'm just wondering, if the prices or the cost of things change, will we get that change or are we stuck with this?
Very good question. I imagine you're referring to the escalation that's happening in the industry right now.
Yeah.
So no, our whole intent by getting this document signed, permission to get it signed and get it signed is that we, as the contractor, guarantee this is our maximum price. So if the price of steel shoots up from here, that's on us. So
What about going down?
unfortunately, that's never the case either. We try to do that with the,
I know, but I have to ask that.
no, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good question. Mr. Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Number one, I'm on. Has another committee already approved of all these things? That's kind of what I'm hearing. That,
Yes, it's gone through Public Works and just recently went through Finance.
so it's already been approved for Myron. So are we just spinning our wheels here and this is just?
No, we're approving the second resolution for the 2 million, right?
No, it just went to those committees to forward it to county board for
Yeah,
approval.
okay.
It's county board has to approve this agreement and the resolution.
Okay, so at tonight's special county board meeting, we're
Correct.
actually approving this.
Yes.
Nothing is written in stone, regardless of what our speaker has said, until we say it is tonight, right?
Well, pretty much. I mean, the project will not go forward if this agreement is not signed tonight.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, this is the document I need to be able to issue subcontracts, procure material, and get the process moving forward. So,
Okay,
But we have approved the initial bonding for 8 million, Mr. Keefe.
Yes.
Okay,
we approved money. We didn't approve this. We approved money
Right.
for expansion.
Right.
I think there's a vast difference in that. And I'm fine with that. I've always been supportive of a second courtroom. I don't have a problem with that. So when I see nebulous numbers, plan review fees, $10,000. Who reviewed the plans, sir?
So that would be the fees for the DSPS and the state of Wisconsin review fees, so. You know,
Is that what their fees are? Because they're pretty much written in stone for DSPS.
so all of
$10,000 is their fee?
all of those values are approximations, so that's not the actual cost that would have been incurred so far.
Soil investigative report, $7,500. Who did the soil investigative report?
I'd have to get that information, but we had a geotechnical firm come and do it, and I just forget at this time who.
You don't
did.
know who the firm was?
Not off the top of my head, sir. I can get that information
Yeah.
for you.
Who did the topographic and utility survey?
Again, I can get that information for you for the company, but most of that was through the design team, through Venture Architects.
I think you answered all my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Kinsley?
No, just wait.
Mike, if we entertain a motion to approve this resolution, does that cover letter A? Or do you want to do these items separately?
No, they should be separate.
Okay. So then if there's, Mr. Hellwig,
I make a motion to approve the initial resolution authorizing.
well, let's start with letter A, sir.
Oh, I got the wrong one.
Yep.
there. I'm sorry.
Sawyer County Courthouse GMP Amendment, A133 PE 3 onto 3/24/22.
Okay.
Motion to approve?
Yes.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. Hellwig. Mr. Duffy? Okay, and a second by Mr. Duffy. To approve the Sawyer County Courthouse GMP Amendment A133 PE, March 24, 22. Is there any further discussion? Alex, anybody online? Okay. Madam Clerk, will a roll call vote, please? Letter A.
Dale Schluter,
Yes.
Jesse Betcher, Tweed Schuman,
Yes.
Stacy Hessel,
Yes.
Mark Helwig,
Yes.
Jason Weaver,
Yes.
Thomas Duffy,
Yes.
Brian Bizanette,
Yes.
Dale Olson,
Yes.
Don Pettit,
No.
Ron Kinsley,
Yes.
Ron Buckholz,
Yes.
Ed Peters.
Ed Peters?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, motion carries. Madam
Yes.
Clerk?
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Kinsley, letter B, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the resolution for the bonding of the remaining 2 million, excuse me, remaining 2,071,395.
Okay, Mr. Buckholz?
I make a motion to approve as presented, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, motion by Mr. Buckholz. Mr. Hellwig?
Second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Buckholz, second by Mr. Hellwig to approve the resolution authorizing general obligation bonds at an amount not to exceed $2,071,395 for the courthouse facilities. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Betcher?
Yeah, so I'm just a little bit concerned that, I know it says not to exceed this amount, 2,071,000. But what's to say that, a month or 6 months or 8 months from now, we're not going to be presented with another one of these? I just feel like there's no guarantee here that they're not going to come back later and say, well, we need another million. I mean, I know that, we discussed it. He said that this is the cost no matter what, if prices of materials increase or not, but I just don't see any guarantee that we won't be doing this again in 6 months for another million.
Thank you. Mr. Keating? Can you answer that, please?
Sure, yep. So this document is a legal document. The name of the document is the Guaranteed Maximum Price Amendment. So as long as the scope doesn't change, as in you don't all of a sudden put an additional square footage on the side or anything like that, that's beyond our control. The documents as they're presented and reflected right now, we legally can't come back for more money.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Olson?
I want to echo what Mr. Betcher has proposed, and basically, we hire a firm to do for us what we can't do for ourselves. It happens every day in the United States, and we won't pay a penny more than what we have right here in front of us. So that's why we hire you guys. And I certainly hope that's where we're going to get, and hopefully considerably less would be fabulous. So I just wanted to say that, echoing what Mr. Betcher said, you know, that is the absolute maximum. That's not what we're going to pay. That's the maximum that we would pay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. Ms. Hessel.
Are some of these increases based on the decisions of the construction committee, or is that just based on industry?
I guess we kind of went through the process, and there is kind of a combination of the two, really. There were some decisions that were made early on when we were designing it that we tried to find ways to bring the price back down. And I think the committee at the time mentioned that, you know, we didn't want to cheap out on the project, so we left some of those things in. So that was a portion of it. And then when we bid the packages out, yes, that's when we saw the other portion of it for just the economy and what it's doing. So
The construction committee, correct me though, Mr. Kinsley, we did approve the rebid, correct?
That's correct.
Yep. And the reason for the rebid was what, Mr. Keating?
We tried to get some additional sub coverage on some of the larger scopes, and we went back to the drawing board and kind of tweaked some of the HVAC and electrical things to get the scope reduced to save dollars.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Buckhold, second by Mr. Hellwig to approve the resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $2,071,395 for courthouse facilities. And Mr. Keefe, this will require a 3/4 vote of the county board, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Dale Schluter.
Yes.
Jesse Betcher. Ed Peters.
Ed Peters?
Yes.
Ron Buckholz.
Yes.
Ron Kinsley.
Yes.
Don Pettit.
Yes.
You know, crazy things that happen
Don Pettit.
on this property.
No.
Dale Olson.
Yes.
Brian Bissonette.
Yes.
Duffy. Mark Helwig.
Yes.
Ms. Hessel. Mr. Schumlin.
Yes. Motion carries. Okay. Next, number 8, Norvato PSC grant application, Harpa request amended. Discussion and possible action. Mike or Mr. Kinsley, you want to take that?
I'll start and then I'll turn it over to Mike.
Okay.
We had approved this over the last few months with ARPA funds, and then it included the town of Draper and part of the town of Winter. Since then, the town of Draper asked to pull out of it or just ban from it. So then Norvato reworked the grant so that we cover a different area and left Draper out of it. And we have some people from Norvato here, and I'll turn it over to Mike Keith and he can turn it over to Norvato.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know that I have much more to add to that. You know, I think from the county's perspective, you know, we try to support any and all opportunities for the expansion of broadband infrastructure in the county. And I think that's an example of what you're seeing. You're seeing all these different companies bidding for these projects. It's up to the PSC, I believe, to determine which project is approved for which territory. That's not a decision the county makes. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Mr. Carlson, what are the amendments to this grant application?
So,
Yep, go ahead, sir.
Thank you for allowing me to come and speak. My name is Leo Carlson. I am the Chief Sales and Marketing Officer at Norvato, and we have a prepared statement and be happy to answer any questions. Also have Rob Lombard, our COO, and Bob Thompson, our CFO here as well, if they have any questions of those for those guys. So the resolution and amendment under review. is occurring because our original grant request needed to be changed to honor Draper's request to not include the locations in their town. As a result, Norvato excluded Draper locations in the original proposal. The maps have been provided, and included other locations in 2 other Sawyer County townships that were defined by the PSC as eligible underserved areas. The resolution amendment is simply a request to modify the coverage area per Draper's request. The new grant request not only includes the same total number of locations included in the original request, but 248 additional locations. The extent of any overlap or potential overlap in grant applications is not known until all applications are submitted to the PSC. The PSC considers funding from public sources as part of its grading criteria for a particular application. LTD, Charter, and Brightspeed, or CenturyLink, made a business decision not to request funds from Sawyer County during this last cycle. The county and all towns can and should support as many grants as they can. This is to ensure that as many locations as possible in Sawyer County can be served by fiber-based broadband. The pledged ARPA support dollars by both county and townships are only expended if a grant is awarded. The PSC is the entity that will sort out any overlapping grant applications. Norvato respects Draper's decision to partner with LTD and their request for Norvato to not deploy services to them. And lastly, Norvato does not have any representatives on any county appointed boards. I, Leo Carlson, am a member of the Sawyer County Lakuta Ray Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors. The SCLCO EDC is a nonprofit organization tasked with recruiting new businesses to the Sawyer County Lakuta Ray communities. We also want to help our existing businesses thrive through partnerships between our area governments, municipalities, agencies, and talented individuals willing to roll up their sleeves. We are moving forward in the area of job creation, job retention, workforce training, community development for improved living, housing development, availability, and broadband. That's taken from the About Us section of the Sawyer County Lakuta Ray Economic Development Corporation. In closing, I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to reply and to provide broadband to underserved areas of Sawyer County. And I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Oh, Mr. Hellwig, yes, sir.
I just was curious. I think you said something about it in your presentation there, but what happens if there is overlapping?
So in the event of overlap, and in some cases there is overlap because there is no way to know unless all parties are sharing information back and forth. There's no way to know where the areas are going to be covered. So there's some areas that may have 1 or 2 different companies covering them. In some cases, there's companies coming into Norvato territory saying they want to serve areas that we already have covered. Now, our obligation is to put up a we can say that they're not there, or we can protest and do those kinds of things. That's the open time that's right now for this particular grant cycle, is to be able to make statements about the areas and the overlaps. So that's a mechanism within the PSC to make it so that the PSC makes the final decision as far as who should serve that area based on their own criteria that they set.
Yep. Mr. Weaver.
Who determines the territory for the businesses?
So the businesses would determine that. So in the case of Norvato, we take a look at it based on our own, where our own services are, existing services, so that we can make sure we can tie into those services and serve correctly. We don't want to alienate ourselves or make ourselves an island. So we make sure we know where those are, and then we look at where we can serve the most homes, where we can serve the most businesses, most areas as possible, and make sure we have infrastructure in place to build on later. That's important. We got to make sure that we're looking ahead. There's going to be more grant cycles. There's huge dollars that we've never seen before coming out right now, and we want to make sure that we're available and we're able to make those changes to move and be able to serve other areas. So we build infrastructure that we know we can build on later, that we can expand upon. So hopefully I answered your question there, Mr. Weaver.
Mr. Olson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't remember everything, and there's too much information here for me. I would certainly like to hear from our representative that covers Draper. I believe that's Mr. Peters.
Oh, sure. Mr. Peters, do you have a comment here, sir, in your district? Mr. Peters, do you have a comment, sir, in your district?
I'm unable to hear. I can't hear a thing that's being said.
Oh, can you hear me now? Yeah. Well, okay, well, he's trying to find that. Mr. Keefe, we've already approved obligating 100,000 of ARPA funds for this project, correct?
Yes, we have.
We are strictly, this resolution strictly amends the territory that we're serving then, correct?
Correct.
Correct, Mr. Carlson?
That is correct.
Okay.
Mr. Schuman, if I may.
Mr. Kinsley.
Mr. Olson, Mr. Peters is the one that brought these broadbands to us. If that helps you.
Okay. Mr. Betcher.
Yeah, Mr. Carlson, I'm sorry, on the overlap question, I guess I'm a little confused because you mentioned an overlap in grants as well as a physical overlap in coverage on the ground. So I understand an overlap in grants, that would be, a waste of money if we get grants to two different companies for the same location. I understand that. But an overlap in coverage, a moderate overlap doesn't sound like a bad thing to me, because if there's not overlap, then there could potentially be seams, there could be gaps, and then there would be people who would not have any coverage at all. So I'm just wondering if I have that right, and if not, if you could clarify that.
No, that's absolutely correct. There is overlap. I mean, one of the definitions of underserved at the PSC is only a single provider. So when we look at these areas, we look, how many providers are there? What kind of business case can we make? So you're right, more overlap, more competition is always better. And that's why we do recommend as much support from towns, counties, everywhere to support these broadband entities. Allow the PSC to do what they're designed to do, which is sort through the overlapping pieces where they should, where they shouldn't, and have that be their directive. To the point of overlapping grants, yes, I would agree 100%. We don't want overlapping grants. We got to keep in mind the difference between grants and federal funding or different areas like that. For instance, RDOF is a federally funded mechanism to recover dollars for building in a rural territory. It is not a grant program. It is a federal program that is going to be there whether the PSC grants people, grants to Norvato, grants to Brightspeed, grants to Charter or anyone else. The people who were received RDOF, if they choose to take those dollars, will still have the opportunity to do that. So at least that is how we understand the RDOF program. So was I able to answer your question? Sure.
Okay, Mr. Olson.
Mr. Chairman, I think in order to dispose of this quickly, it appears to me that, we aren't going over to Draper. We aren't going up County Highway Double G. We have already approved $100,000 in this request. I think it would be apparent that by mileage area, I don't think we can say people served, that we should reduce the amount of our grant funding by that amount. If it's going to be reduced for those people, we should reduce it from the county.
Mr. Kinsley.
It's serving more houses the way they have it set up now than it was the other way. Is that what you mean by that?
Mr. Chairman, I believe Supervisor Kinsley says it's serving more houses. You can tell me it is, but I'm looking at the maps, and County Highway Double G all the way up to Mellon all the way over to Draper on Wisconsin 70. It certainly appears just by looking at dots that there's a heck of a lot more that were being served than there is being served now.
Mr. Carlson, can you answer that, sir, please?
Sure. I think you may be looking at the wrong map, sir. The map the new proposed map goes from the town of Winter up through the town of Moose Lake and over to Clam Lake, which would serve 248 more subscribers than were listed in the original. So it may be that you're looking at the original proposed map as opposed to the new one.
Would 248 more than the
248
initial
additional
approval?
Users, yep.
Mr. Kinsley? Oh, okay.
So how do we, what do we tell the people in Draper or Highway Double G?
The town of Draper has sent their own grant request in along with LTD Broadband to provide services in their township. They chose not to have us serve that area, have asked us not to, so they chose to go with LTD as a potential broadband.
Sure, and to my point, we are going to be requested for another $100,000 for that grant. And my issue is now we still don't have any rules and we're going to be asked for another $100,000 for ARPA funds that we still don't have a way to dispense.
Okay. Ms. Hessel?
Could you clarify that? Because we're just talking about this 100,000 that we already approved previously. This was an amendment to that. So where's the other 100,000 that you're talking about? Nothing's been brought to us.
Correct. Okay, so then at this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the Sawyer County Board of Supervisors amended resolution to approve broadband expansion proposal from Norvato. Mr. Helwig.
Okay, I want to get this right.
Hold on, I'm unmuted right now.
Motion by Mr. Helwig. Looking for a second. Okay, second by Mr. Kinsley. Is there any further discussion? Alex, anybody online? Okay, Mr. Weaver, in discussion.
Will we be able to follow up and create that point of contact if we haven't already for this broadband moving forward, so we don't have these where we're not working with the townships or not coordinating properly? Because this seems like we could have streamlined this way ahead of time and gone forward from that. I know there's already too many committees, but maybe that's something we discuss and look into.
Great idea. Ms. Hessel.
I think that is discussed in economic development and also on the Sawyer County LCO economic development. So if you're on either of those two, that's widely discussed at those two committees.
Okay, so I got a motion by Mr. Helwig, second by Mr. Kinsley to approve the amended resolution approving the broadband expansion proposal from Norvato. Is there any further discussion? If
May
not,
I speak?
All those in favor?
May I speak? This is Chris Klein. I'm on the
No, that's
I'm on
all
the
right, Chris.
Draper Planning.
We had public comment early, sir. All those in favor
Just-
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on then to discussion. Any other matters for discussion only? Mr. Keefe, you want to bring us up to speed on a couple things you have, please, sir?
Yeah, first I'd like to just thank all of you for attending the special meeting tonight. I know we all have busy schedules and probably other places we'd like to be. And I'd also like to thank all the people past and present who've had countless hours getting us to the point we are tonight with passing this resolution. We're able to move on out of the financing stage and now into the construction stage. So kudos to that. I just want another update. We did interview a finance director candidate today, so I'm not sure where it's going yet, but just FYI on that.
Okay. Oh, Mr. Alvarado, would you like to come to the podium? I'm sorry. You drove all the way up here, sir. I don't think the entire board has actually met you in person yet.
Hello, I'm Andy Alvarado. I'll be up here in 3 weeks, starting on the 25th as planned. Looking forward to it. A chance to sit in on the finance interview today and a couple committee meetings or in the board meetings. So just trying to get up to speed before I start. So if I haven't met you, come find me after the meeting and I'll do a person introduction.
Great.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you, Andy. Okay, anything else for discussion only? Mr. Buckholz?
I just want to make a statement at the last county board meeting when I was talking about we didn't need a, excuse me, an ad hoc committee for the ARPA funds. And I said to run it through the admin, and I guess I didn't make myself real clear, but I'd like this in the record.
Sure.
I mean the admin committee, not the administrator. So I just want that noted.
Sure. Great. Thank you. Anything else? Alex, anybody online? If not, I thank you all. We're adjourned.